My name is Kate Parzani. I work at CARLA. Thank you so much for coming today for this CARLA sponsored talk. So we are really excited today for today's talk. Our first speaker is Anu Gopalakrishnan, who is a graduate of the PhD program in second language education here at the University of Minnesota. And she's a very experienced researcher and educator. She has taught multiple languages, including English, German, and Tamil, which is the subject of today's talk. And our second presenter is Siva Madiyappan, who is the founder or co-founder of a number of entities that support Tamil language instruction, including the Minnesota Tamil School, the American Tamil Academy, and the American Tamil Teachers Association. And the title of their talk today is Professional Development Opportunities for Teachers of Less Commonly Taught Languages, Case Study of a Tamil Community School. And I'll hand things over to Anu and Siva.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you everyone here for joining us this afternoon in this presentation. As Kate said, we're going to be talking about a very specific group of languages and language teachers today that sadly receive very little attention in the larger field of second language education or heritage language education. So our hope and goal is to shed a little light on these people who mostly just work in the shadows, even though their numbers are significant. And hopefully, and our hope is that through this presentation, we offer some strategies and techniques for other similar language schools that are out there and are probably facing similar challenges. So let me start out by talking about this particular group of languages or teachers that we're talking about. And I'd like to use a Venn diagram to explain this a little better. So on the left side, the circle that we're talking about are the less commonly taught languages. So commonly taught languages usually include French, German, Italian, and Spanish, but there are several other less commonly taught languages within the US that are spoken by smaller communities and are taught in smaller institutions. So the Higher Education Act actually identified 78 priority less commonly taught languages within the US. Now, the word priority signals that there are even more less commonly taught languages that don't even figure in this list, right? So just to show you that even though these the number of speakers and learners of these less commonly taught languages are less or few in number, the number of just these language of the number of LCTLs are just many within the linguistic mosaic of the US. So this is on the left circle that I'm talking about. The right circle is the space in which these languages or other languages are taught. And these are community-based language schools. So language schools that are effectively run, taught, managed by community support and through the efforts of these community members for other community members and others also. So the language that and if we look at the number of community-based language schools, I have a small statistics here from the Community-Based Language Schools Consortium, where these schools can just sign up and register themselves. So if you can see across 35 states within the US, there are 380 community-based schools, out of which 92 are concentrated in California. But these 380 schools include both less commonly taught languages and commonly taught languages, as in these schools teach both kinds of languages, right? But I'm talking specifically about less commonly taught languages. So you can imagine there are several Spanish community schools, several Italian schools, and that's not the space or the group of schools that I'm talking about here. And you'll see why in a minute. But So the teachers and the languages that I'm talking about are those that lie at the intersection of these two circles, which is less commonly taught languages that are taught exclusively or almost exclusively in community settings. So even though the space might seem small, the number of schools, the number of languages, and just the amount of work that goes on in these spaces is tremendous, is huge. The challenges they face are very unique, and they have organically come up with several solutions. And like I said at the beginning, they receive very little attention in the larger language education or second language education community. And that is what we are going to focus upon today. And we're going to do that specifically using one particular language, Tamil. So Tamil is a language that originated from the south of India and Sri Lanka, but today we find Tamil language speakers who are all over the world. We've spread all over the world. That Tamil is my first language also. So I'm not going to talk too much about this right now at this point. My co-presenter will be talking about it in detail later. But I just wanted to tell you what's coming up. This is the language that we're going to be talking about, and a language school that teaches Tamil. All right. So the focus, obviously, of today's, as you know, today's presentation is the language teacher. So who are the language teachers who work in these community schools for less commonly taught languages? So first of all, they are volunteers spending about 5 to 10 hours per week. And that means they have full-time jobs, they have their own career paths, professional paths and trainings, and their families and other interests and so on. And on top of that, they spend about 5 to 10 hours per week receiving little or no monetary compensation. Now that's the surprising part for me, or that's the humbling part for me, where like they spend their time and effort and do not get paid for it. They wear many hats, they play many roles. They are not just language teachers, they are also parents, they're also community members, they are school administrators. They also act as advocates for the language, for the culture, and for the school itself. And they play an instrumental role in garnering that community support that keep these community schools running. They are all highly motivated in passing on their heritage language and cultural knowledge to the next generations. And in fact, that's the only thing that keeps them going, like to volunteer and to spend that amount of time and effort every week. The motivation is what drives them. They're all multilinguals and multiculturals. And most of them have little to no pedagogical training. And this is not just from my observation working with community schools in the Twin Cities, but also has been recorded in literature by several other scholars. So if we look at the kind of professional development that these teachers have, or the paths to professional development, it's very challenging, and it is not a straightforward path at all. So like I said earlier, they have limited training, or even those who do have some sort of pedagogical training, they are trained to work with native speakers or with monolingual speakers and not heritage learners. Just like heritage language learners, heritage language teachers also come from diverse backgrounds. So educationally, professionally, culturally, linguistically, they all have diverse backgrounds. And this diversity directly influences or has an impact on their instruction. The third point is this is a little sad, but if you look at any sort of funding that comes into heritage language education, most of them focus on the heritage learner, and there's very, very little focus on the heritage language teacher. Federal, private, or nonprofit funding sources often are very keen and eager to fund research and training and so on that will help improve the learning and the heritage learner. But when it comes to professional development for the language teacher, there's very, very few out there. There's also very less instruction on how effective instruction for less commonly taught languages would look like. And this is, again, something that we are working on in our own circles. And then teachers often have difficulty finding time for professional development. Remember, I said these are all people who have full-time jobs, who have their families and so on. And so, this is like a practical difficulty that these teachers face. When would I attend professional development programs, or when would I find time to do that? I know that most of you who are here are, in fact, teachers who work in these spaces. And I bet most of you just took some time off work to come attend this, right? So you know what I'm talking about. Common suggestions from other scholars like Potowski and Carrera, who said, you can offer professional training during the weekends or during summer also doesn't work in this space. It's just not applicable here because most of these schools actually run during the weekends. And summer again is not possible because again they work full time and then they have their own families to take care of. So actually finding time for professional development is a reality, and is a real difficulty for these teachers. And then finally, if they do find time, then the channels for professionalization. So would they do like a certificate program, or would they have to do like a bachelor's degree, or like or would they have to go to grad school, or would they have to attend summer workshops? Whatever the channels for professionalization is again difficult, and getting access to them is also challenging for these teachers. So these are the challenges, or this is what professional development looks like for the teacher. But if you think about, but if we look at the challenges that program directors or school heads or like school board members face in offering professional development opportunities to teachers, their challenges are slightly different. So these challenges can be categorized as logistical, ideological, and language specific. So I'm going to talk about each one of them. So the logistical challenges usually include, again, the question of time, but not just at the individual level, but also at the institutional level. So at the individual level, I've already spoken about how teachers don't have time or find it difficult to find time. At the institutional level, the challenge is that typically these community schools follow the school calendar year. So during the school year, they do not have time to offer professional training to their teachers. And then, so if they do have to do it in summer, then again, it's difficult to find time because that's when they go out and again, advertise for themselves, make sure that they get enough student enrollment for the upcoming year. So their time is also split among the many responsibilities they have. In addition to that, they have to, if they do plan for a professional development program, they will have to get the approval from several layers of stakeholders, right? Not just from teachers, but also from board members, administrators, and so on. And unlike in a, let's say, a public school or like a K-12 school where board members might meet once a month or so, here board members meet a little more infrequently, or little more, their meetings are a little more apart. And therefore, by the time they have an idea for a program, for a professional developed program, and that actually materializes, it takes a long time because they just like there are several people to talk to and get approval from, and then the times when they meet is also not that frequent. So these are some of the logistical challenges. The second group of challenges that program directors or school heads actually face is our ideological challenges. So how many times have we heard this? Why do I need training? I'm a native speaker. I know, so I can teach the language. So assuming that just subject knowledge is enough to teach is something that we all face, not just in community-based schools. So convincing teachers to actually get trained to teach a language is something that that's always an obstacle. Teachers also enter being a convinced expert, right? Like, so they say, I'm a native speaker, I know the language, so I can teach. So they enter the profession, or they enter these schools being a convinced expert. And then a year or two later, they see that they do not get the results that they want, or students struggle and so on. And then they become self-doubting novices to the extent that they say, I don't want to be a teacher. And then that leads to teacher attrition, which is another huge challenge that community schools face. Low self-confidence is again something that's very prevalent among these teachers of less common taught languages, especially because we see this particularly when they're asked to teach grammar or writing techniques. They say, oh, I can teach at the lower levels, but as we go on higher up, it's difficult for me to teach grammar or writing techniques because I don't know these. I just speak the language, right? And then finally, many of them, like I said, are multilinguals whose proficiency levels in English is very high. But they also believe that their English proficiency could come in the way of them teaching the target language, the heritage language, even though they are native speakers. So there are some ideological challenges also that very often school administrators or um, um, principals have to face or overcome in offering professional development programs. The third group of challenges are language specific. So we're talking about, like I said, less commonly taught languages. Remember, these form a really tiny percentage of the number of learners or speakers, or even like the number of programs that are offered if you take into consideration all the language education that goes on in the US. But the challenges here are particularly relate to the materials and assessments and textbooks that are available out there. So for example, if you take Tamil, there are actually a lot of materials available and syllabi available to teach the language, but most of them are not proficiency based. They are not outcomes based. They promote top-down teaching approaches and do not have the learner at the center of its conceptualization. So these obviously do not align with 21st century learning skills that we use today. The other challenge is that even among those materials and assessments and textbooks that are available, most of them are geared towards teaching a native speaker. And these materials are just brought over here to teach the heritage language learner. There's very, very few material out there that actually addresses the heritage language learner. So these are the challenges that one faces if one's a less commonly taught language teacher at a community-based school. And like I said, it's really challenging. The struggles that these people face is unique to their context, and it's unique to their space, and it's unique to the kind of learners that they have in their classroom. But it's not all gloomy. There's always a way. And so today we are going to be presenting to you the case study of one particular community school that teaches Tamil as a heritage language to its learners. And we are going to trace what they've done over the last few years in finding unique, innovative, creative ways of offering professional development to their teachers. And we're going to do that in the form of 5 strategies that they've adopted over the years. And my co-presenter here will take over from now on. And over to you, Shiva. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Anu. Good afternoon to everyone. Vanakkam, which is welcome in Tamil to everyone. So go to the next slide. So just a little info about the Tamil as a language. So most of the people don't know that it's one of the ancient living classical language, just dating back to over 2,000 years of continuous literature history. So it's also one of the oldest and the mother of all the Dravidian language family, which is from South India. For example, like there's the grammar history is more than 3,000 years old. So we use a literature even today called Tolkapiam, which was dating back to 3,000 years. Even for all the grammar rules, what we use right now is all derived from that. So it's not changed much. Out of all the ancient poets, Thiruvalluvar is the famous one. So you could see in almost all the Tamil organizations, schools, and so anything, you will see a logo with that one. His image will be there. So he composed a literature called Tirukkural, which consists of 1,330 two-line couplets, which is translated into more than 100 world languages. And it's also a non-religious literature. So, for example, even though it is a 2,000-year-old literature, even today, our basic level students could be able to read them. So it shows the continuity of the language, which is unbroken history. The phonetics are still being used. The number of people speaking the language Tamil is over 90 million across the world. So, for example, the predominantly the population is from South India and state called Tamil Nadu, which is 67 million, which is a conservative 2012 census. Currently, its current estimate is around 78 million. Then we have another 2 to 3 million from other parts of India, 5 million from Sri Lanka, 1.8 million Malaysia, and 200,000 from Singapore. In all these regions and countries, it's also an official language. In outside of these areas from other countries in Asia, Australia, Africa, Europe, and America, we have 5 million more diaspora. In US, we have around 400,000. Canada has got 550,000. UK is 400,000. And then South Africa is 250, which is all the major diaspora population across the world. Next slide. So in order to kind of understand how the Tamil language has been kind of used in US, and the immigrant population has been increased in the last 20 to 30 years. So the exponential growth of the Tamil schools happened in the last 15 years. We have around right now around approximately 300 Tamil schools, which is ranging from 30 to 800 students in each school, which are all completely run by the community-based nonprofit organizations. We approximately have around 30,000 students learn Tamil in all these schools in various levels, which is still only a quarter of the population, which is the Tamil heritage speaking population in the US. In all these schools, it was told by Anu that we have more than 2,000 teachers who are all volunteers and teach in different levels. The next slide. So the MNTS Tamil School, it's called Minnesota Tamil School, it's MNTS Tamil School, which is established with 12 students in December 2008. This academic year, we have 410 students. We have 3 branches, which kind of teaches the courses on Saturdays. There are morning sessions in Woodbury and Maple Grove, and we have a afternoon session in Eden Prairie. So it's typically the classes run for 2 hours and 15 minutes. It runs for around 28 to 30 weeks in an academic year. So the school progressed a lot, and so in 2013 itself, we got an accreditation by Advanced, which is one of the first Tamil schools to achieve this status. We have 2 of our students got the first bilingual seal in 2016. And then so far we have 27 students attained this status. Until last year, next year, like this spring, we have 10 more students going to appear for the assessment during the spring. So our school also kind of, in order to kind of motivate this going forward, we have established a college scholarship endowment, which actually awards a scholarship to each and every one of the students who attain the bilingual seal status. There are different seals in Minnesota, like a platinum, gold, and a certificate. So we award them like $1,200, $1,000, and $1,800. This is only to motivate them to learn, spend as much time in the K-12, and then when they go to the college, make use of these credits. And then our idea was to have these kind of people come back to the community as teachers when they settle down in their job and after they complete the undergrad or postgraduate. The Minnesota Council for Teaching Language and Culture, which awards a kind of a Pro Lingua award, which they awarded to MNTS Tamil School based on our activities we do in various fields in 2020, which is a very prestigious award. Yeah, next slide. So talk about the teachers, currently we have around 40 plus primary teachers, 20 plus additional teachers who cater to homework, like backfilling for the teachers and other activities. There are more than 90% of our teachers are teaching for more than 5 years. Some of the teachers were teaching even 10 years. So in addition to the teaching the classes, the Saturday classes, they also do there is a 20 plus syllabus team members who create a syllabus, the learning aids and teaching aids. All the teachers, in addition to kind of taking classes on Saturdays, they engage the students in various things like the cultural activities, like the drama, singing, dance, martial arts, percussion instruments, summer camps, literary competition, all through the year. During the last 6 years, 20 plus teachers from our school got a BA Tamil linguistic degree using via the distance education from the Tamil University from India. We have a syllabus we created, like it's a 10-year syllabus, which caters to the 4 years of novice and 6 years of intermediate and 1 year of bilingual level. which is an advanced low level. So we have created and keep improving this from 2018 onwards, and we made the syllabus available to anyone in the world to use. It's in our website. Yeah. So the strategy is what we are, Anu was kind of explaining. That's the first strategy. What we come across is that in out of all the prior to this 2016, we don't have a concept of the proficiency-based education. So the having a proficiency-based education actually motivated the teachers to seek the professional training. So as Anu told, like prior to that one, then the teachers were volunteers. They know they know Tamil very well, and then they don't have a kind of a pedagogical training to teach it as a second language. But whatever, when it has come to a professional kind of proficiency-based curriculum, there are a lot of new things which they'll need to learn. So that is actually leads to a lot of requirement for professional training, which kind of they get into it. So the reason, ideologically, the reasoning being is that all the Tamil schools across the world and all, they don't have a concept of a backward design. It's mostly, it's all built based on, okay, whatever I can teach this year, okay, I have this many hours, and then what are the things I can do it? It's based on however the languages start in, like native speakers in Tamil Nadu, Sri Lanka. So they were going by that. So in order to measure the proficiency for each level is not really there. So it's all based on, okay, what I'm teaching something, then I will test on that one instead of, okay, what is an attainable, what are the measurable proficiency for each level they do it. So this is actually kind of put us into a thing when we, from 2016 onwards, to kind of start focusing on creating the proficiency level based approach in determining the levels first. And then it's one of the other reasoning being that, so even historically, the concept of the listening and speaking in the syllabus when teaching a Tamil language is not there, because it's mostly it is focusing on reading and writing, which is the way we learned the language. So it is a more focus there. So then we kind of change the focus to have like a listening, speaking, reading, writing skills are incorporated, and also the 3 modes of communication. So that is a traditional shift, or a paradigm shift, where we kind of moving away from the traditional model of having a syllabus and teaching methodologies. The other one we found out that is, Anush told that one, most of the teachers were very comfortable in kind of, they know the language, they do it, but kind of formally teaching a grammar is a big challenge. So we are also kind of slowly deviating from a kind of a linguistic grammar focused one to a practical usage of grammar, especially in the intermediate and the advanced levels. So in order to kind of, all of these things comes into thing when the students gets the benefits out of it based on there is an assessment. So the Tamil assessment using an LSRW skills for the intermediate low, high, and advanced low was created in 2017 in collaboration, which is actually funded by Minnesota Department of Education, and ACTFL trained 7 of our teachers. So then that was actually used for 4 years, and last year with the Department of Education, we have also participated in creating an online-based, like using it. It's a second set of assessments for Tamil language, but it's all kind of online-based, which is we are using an extempore tool. Next. So when we try to kind of focus on the proficiency-based syllabus, so one of the things we are trying to kind of map it like, okay, whatever the maximum K-12 student could be able to spend time. So there's buckets of around 28 to 30 weeks per year. That's a maximum we could spend, because it's a weekly class, it's a Saturday. So we go through this, and then so we kind of we have in Minnesota, the highest level of proficiency they can attain is advanced low, which offers a platinum seal. So we have that one as a priority, which is something the student can achieve it in their 11th grade or 12th grade, or mostly the 10th and 11th we focus. So then we kind of split all these things into a 10-year syllabus. which is like a 6-year of focus on the intermediate levels, and each and every intermediate level within that has been, we need like 2 years. So we kind of split that one into 6 units. So the 6 units are around 8 to 9 weeks. So that's how we built the intermediates, and the basic levels where generally it is where they slowly learn the different alphabets, phonetics, and then when they come to the novice high after 3 or 4 years of learning, they pretty much have a solid foundation to move on to the intermediate levels. So this way it helps us to kind of tell us everyone, because the Minnesota, it offers like credits even for intermediate low, intermediate high, and advanced low. So we have students who starts from kindergarten at the age of 4, and then we have students who starts in their middle school also. And then there are students we have come from India, so they have some kind of base foundation on the language. So it helps. It's kind of this way. It helps to cater into every possibility on every level of students. Next. So on the second one, the strategy is mostly to kind of how to motivate us in identifying all these things. Okay, these are all there, but how do we really make it happen? So prior to bilingual seal in 2016, that's the first time we came to know about it. So for example, in 2013, we got the advanced accreditation. The real focus is mainly what we are trying to do is that, okay, whether getting an accreditation will help us to get some credits for our students. After spending 3 years in getting an accreditation as a secondary language school with advanced, is a Herculean task. But even then, we could not get any credits to any of our students. So the first thing we kind of came to know about is the bilingual seal in 2016. So that actually kind of transpired into like a greater willingness and motivation for the teachers to enroll themselves in training opportunities, because it's really like so it's what is ultimately when we do all this efforts, whether it is getting how much the students get benefit out of it is this gap. So when there is a bilingual seal, then the teachers automatically understand the need for training opportunities. So when we move across, like move from 2016, so we have more and more students getting bilingual seal, then it is actually kind of those parents and teachers, they kind of they motivate the other peoples, and then it's while it kind of starting from few teachers, and like then it spreads into within the teacher community. So they were kind of they're very motivated to go for this kind of assessment trainings. So then one of the things we found out that, okay, because it's the bilingual seal was a cumulative check where it is irrespective of the way they learn the language. So the students will be able to gain in different levels. So that is actually kind of been proven especially in our school in the last 6 years. So the students achieve this, then they get the credits in the high school, and because in Minnesota, it's automatically transferred to the college credits. So it is a kind of whatever the time they spend in K-12 learning as a language, spending more time on it, which actually a lot more benefits as a dual benefit. They get it in K-12 and as well as when they go to the college. So in order to motivate the teachers, like as we know, we are doing all these things only as a voluntary basis. So in 2019, we kind of constituted the Presidential Service Awards, which we track every time, like whatever the time they spend in the classes, what other activities they do with the teachers, the trainings they do, all these things. So then we kind of get this award, which is actually a voluntary award, which is kind of useful for many people. That is one of the motivation we are trying to do. I mean, we were unable to do it as monetarily, so we were trying to do the service awards. So, but I mean, based on the 13 years of experience and whatever we have to do, so like recently, a month back, so our school board decided to incentivize the teachers for their time in spending when they do with the classrooms, homeworks, and parent-teacher conferences. So we are going to monetize the teachers for the first time from next academic year. It's a big change. Okay, so we hope to kind of sustain this in the coming years. Next slide. So this is the list of our 27 students who attained this bilingual seal. from 2016 to 2021. We have 10 more students, and it's almost 8 different school districts. We were successful with this one. Yeah. Next one. So the other strategy we have to do is that when we all know we are all volunteers, we have a lot of inside talent, and we have outside expertise also. We have to use all the things possible in order to kind of achieve our things. The leveraging the expertise of the teachers and parent volunteers, we use it completely in-house, like designing a syllabus, creating content for it, and designing online materials. We have our own Moodle, which are all created completely with our volunteers. We don't have much budget to even pay for this kind of stuff. So in the last 2 years, when we are all doing all the remote learning, so it kind of even we focused more on, okay, how best we can leverage the time we spent with the teachers and the students. So we started digitizing our entire syllabus. We're almost done with the two semesters. We are going to do the third semester in the next 7 to 8 weeks. So which is actually the assessment, remotely doing an assessment, which is not there at all. So which is kind of which is very tough for us to kind of do. If it is remotely, the whole class is happening remotely. So we have created online assessments for various levels. So that we were able to kind of digitally deliver this assessments. And then one of the other strategy we are doing is that in order to save the teacher's time, so almost all our syllabus, where if it is a reading, listening, we were auto-grading it using the H5P interactive content, which is very recent, and we are making use of that, so that the teachers could spend more time on the speaking, writing, which require always an educator to help the students to improve their skill set. So our focus is in the next 1 or 2 years is completely moving away from paper. I mean, almost all the Tamil schools depend so much on paper. So we were kind of making sure that we can able to save a lot of money on it, and then as well as kind of making sure that we don't have to depend on paper, and everybody has a device to use it. So we are going on that route. For example, we created the Tamil assessments with the help of MDE. So last year, so the 4 students from Nebraska, Omaha, they came in to Minnesota. They took the assessment along with our students. The Nebraska Department of Education and the Minnesota Department of Education, they worked and they agreed to it. And then using a Minnesota assessment, the 4 more students from Omaha, Nebraska were able to get the bilingual seal for their state. So, which is again, the biggest missing point is the Tamil assessment outside of Minnesota right now. We created a Read Tamil app, which is again, during the pandemic, we found out that in the basic levels, the students' ability to kind of read anything phonetically, there's a lot of gap, and Tamil has got a lot of short sound, long sounds and all. In order for that one, we created a free app, an educational app, which has been available in iOS and Android, which has got more than 20,000 users right now all over the world. They use it, which is really based on a 32-card system created by NSNIA. Next slide. So beyond our internal expertise, and then we kind of work with so many other external experts, like the national organization like the ACTFL, MCTLC, Department of Education, and then ATTA, actually it's called American Tamil Teachers Association. So our collaboration, I know I can still remember Ursula in 2016, when we went to the first IPA training. We never know anything about bilingual seal, and Ursula was the one pioneering it, and she has kind of helped to kind of have our teachers to get those seven teachers got kind of certified by ACTFL. She had a funding on that. So Megan Butke, we worked with Megan Butke on many things. Ayumi is currently doing the World Language Coordinator for MDE. We are working for the last 2 years with her. Paul Sandrak from ACTFL, Dr. Bharati from Berkeley University, late Dr. Radhakrishnan from Austin University, Dr. Vasu from UPenn, Tamil Virtual Academy, and then we have so many other teachers and all. We collaborate and do it. One of the efforts we are doing with a lot of contribution from Minnesota teachers is that the American Tamil Teacher Association has been working for the last 4 years to develop the LCTL standards for Tamil. We are in the final phase of ratification. That will be the 17th language with a national standard for Tamil. So very soon. Okay, next one. So the grassroots marketing approach. So this is again like we have successful students and then convince the teachers to the standard-based curriculum, and then we have to continuously improve them to kind of. It is not possible for every teachers to come on board on a day one and everybody do it. So we kind of go by. So there's some senior teachers who are all kind of willing to kind of explore it, and then they understand, and then they spread the word that okay, this is something. So we go with small group of teachers, and then they spread the word, and then the parents and teachers, the success, whatever they get out of all these things. So we follow that approach in each and everything. So either it is when we want to adopt a proficiency-based syllabus or assessment training, which is important for everyone to do it. And then creating learning content, which is again, we start off with a small population and then it spreads to the whole teachers. So the IPA workshop, so we have done in the last 6 weeks from November to the end of last week. So Dr. Anu has conducted that, and there's a first ever effort. We have done all the 6 sessions for the reading, writing, speaking, speaking and listening with the actual Tamil samples, which is not there at all. It's very hard for us to kind of correlate with each and every teacher when it is the Tamil base. It actually helps a lot. Next slide. So the professional training to the teachers, it's not an easy. So it's a completely a voluntary based organization. So we have limited funds using all these things in order for them to kind of get training. This is not like a standard format won't work. So we had teachers who attended like a weekday 3 to 5 day training with MD and ACTFL. So that is not going to help with each and everyone. So we kind of use every avenue possible. Like we do an online one and a blended or in person in the weekends. Since every one of our teachers kind of having a primary jobs. So we have to find out the evening timings or like a weekend timings. So we use like online and offline concepts like in LMS or YouTube videos. So this is something, it's a blended approach, which is important for everyone to take it so that they will be successful in that. So that's why we use different kind of methods to kind of achieve this. So when it comes to the thing, when it go to a professional training means that we need to allocate some funds. So we have very less budget, but still we are from 2016 onwards, we devote at least a considerable amount of our revenues, whatever the reserves for our training, which is very important, which is something missing in many schools. So because it is important too. Okay. So next slide. So these are all the things we have done. So we have 7 of our teachers got the full ACTFL training like in 2017, and then 20 plus teachers got the BA Tamil degree from 2016, and then we have 6 more teachers went into an MD training in 2018. From 2016 onwards, we have 40 plus teachers who are trained in IPA. Which are all the sessions conducted by MDE and MCTLC. In the past few years, we are also having an annual training, which is MDE offers for all the ACTFL raters who will be rating all the bilingual SEAL students. So yeah, these are all the approaches we do kind of to cater to the professional training for the teachers. Yeah, I know you can continue.
All right. So as you can see, it's a lot of hard work and long hours, but obviously they have a lot of positive results. As the Tamil MNTS Tamil School has observed that there's an increased motivation and support from the teachers and from the community at large. So they're all more engaged in teaching. They're more willing. If they weren't putting in enough number of hours earlier, they are now willing to put in more number of hours. And there's also a huge engagement and interest among students and parents. Earlier students would say, oh, my parents want me to learn my home language, so I will. But now they're also interested because the syllabus is different, the materials are different, it focuses on learner outcomes. And so there's greater engagement among students also. Increased enrollment in MNTS Tamil school. Now, this is not just a numbers thing. You please remember that these are community-based schools, so sustenance is the top priority. So sustaining student enrollment is a huge thing for schools like MNTS Tamil school, and therefore it's not just a matter of pride that there's increased enrollment. It's also a sigh of relief that there's increased enrollment. Greater sense of community among all Tamil teachers because of that third strategy that Shiva spoke about, that collaboration among teachers and experts in the field. There's a greater sense of community among Tamil teachers that they can relate to others also. But it's not all golden and rosy. There are still ongoing challenges. It's no way close to being perfect. Some of the challenges that the Tamil school and other community-based schools still face is, for example, the unavailability of standardized assessments, for example, ACTFL assessments or trained teachers in their specific languages. So we convince schools to adopt standards-based curriculum and then change their syllabus, and they get trained and all that, and train their students towards this bilingual seal, for example. And then finally they realized, oh, there's no assessment, or it's available only in Minnesota, then we'll have to send our students, for example, from Nebraska to Minnesota to do, to take these tests or exams. So these are like some of the huge constraints and questions that teachers and schools come up with, or challenges that they face when they, when they shift to a standards-based curriculum. There are no guidelines or samples available for skills-specific assessment. So in comparison to, let's say, Spanish or French or German, that's been taught for a huge amount of time now, or for like many years. There's a lot of research. There's a lot of work that's gone into putting together these samples, but those are still unavailable for Tamil language teachers or other less commonly taught language teachers, and then they have to work on those too. Finding language-specific materials like authentic resources. So finding authentic resources is always a challenge. It's not just specific to us, but it's more of a challenge here because, like I said, people, the number of people who operate in this community are really very less. And so on top of being just like, like I said, assessors and teachers and parents and all that, they also become then material developers, and they put together materials and share whatever little resources they have. Fostering teacher self-confidence is always a challenge because they come in with varying levels of confidence, and then that goes up and down, and therefore their identity. So, affirming their identities as teachers and nurturing their self-confidence is always a challenge for these schools. And then finally, elevating the status of less commonly taught languages and shifting their ideologies around them is really a challenge. So shifting the ideologies of parents and community members themselves is always a challenge. So even long and hardworking parents, community members sometimes say, oh yeah, my child is learning my home language. But then when the child goes and enrolls themselves in a world language at school, let's say in high school in French or in German, they obviously perceive that to be a greater achievement or something that's more precious than learning their home language. So ideology surrounding the learning of one's own home language is also very different in our spheres. So this is what we wanted to share with you, and hopefully you learned or you got something from our experiences. These are our email addresses. The first one is mine and the second one is Shiva's. We'll take some questions now, but also feel free to write to us if you're not able to get to your questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Anu and Shiva, for this great presentation. I am so impressed with the success of the program that you described, and also the sort of grassroots and collaborative way that it was developed, and the way that it grew. So really kudos to you. There's a lot of really positive feedback in the chat too about the program that you described. I have a question. I'm waiting for other questions to come in, but I have a question about professional development. So Anu, maybe this is a question for you. I'm curious, and you described a lot of the sort of contextual differences between these community-based LCTL teachers and more sort of traditional in quotes professional development. I'm curious about the difference in the content of the professional development. Do you feel that because these teachers are working in such a different context than in a regular school setting or in a university setting, that the content of the professional development needs to be different as well?
Yes. So one of the primary differences that they will have to address in these professional development programs are issues, for example, like the differences in proficiency levels of the linguistic proficiency levels of their learners. So very often what a common scenario that we see in these community schools is that students will come in and they will be at different age levels and then different levels of proficiency. And then there's just this one teacher who has to address this whole class. And so that's really challenging to teachers. And so professional development programs will have to equip teachers with, techniques and strategies to address that, for example. And then just like the dearth of materials that are available out there is just huge. I mean, the dearth is huge, which means the availability is really less. And therefore, teachers will also have to be trained to develop materials, to design tasks and activities and assessments and so on. So they sort of need an introduction, but also specialized training in different niche areas, even within language education.
So a related question about professional development was in the chat, and that is more of a practical question, and that is, can Tamil school teachers from other schools attend your professional development? Or is it just for the teachers in your particular community, or is it open to the general public?
So we don't have a formal professional training program yet, and Shiva can talk to that, but we just designed recently this one professional development program that ran over 6 weekends, over 4 months or so. And that was, again, very specialized. It was on IPA. And so I don't know if the school has a plan to offer that again. So Shiva, you can take that.
Yeah, that's a good thought. So we do like kind of share our experiences like during the summertime before the school year starts. We had conducted a few sessions. So those are all recorded and available in the YouTube. You can access it through our website, mntamilschool.org. As Anu told, we have there is a big gap in this. Going into an IPA training and English-based training is, of course, it's very good to understand all the basics, but if we need really to implement it as a secondary language in the Tamil language, it's far off. So for that one, having Tamil examples, even actual Tamil student samples from different levels, is the need of it, because we know we are kind of trying to do this kind of stuff for the last 6 years, and we are fortunate to have Anu here. So we have built a six kind of a session which caters to 2 sessions for the presentational writing, and then 2 sessions for the speaking, and then 1 session for interpretive, and 1 is about introduction about these things. Yeah, there is a possibility, and we are exploring it. We are kind of having so much of other tasks and going on, and yeah, definitely we do this kind of all this stuff. For example, we do all this kind of like a standalone things, and last summer we had around about 4 or 5 sessions. We had to explain the new Tamil national standard, which is actually an open session. It is also recorded. It's available under the American Tamil Teacher Association YouTube channel too. So yeah, we do have a lot of these things. Whatever we do, generally available stuff, so we make it available there. But kind of professionally, if you want to conduct and enroll people to do it, that's a good thought. We will think about it for sure. Thank you.
One of those questions that makes you, question your success, right? The more successful you become, the more work you have to do and the more considerations you have to make, right?
Yeah.
So there's a question, this is probably for you, Shiva, about the focus of your curriculum. So the question is about the relationship between a focus on skills development or communicative modes versus a focus on grammar knowledge and grammar development. So can you talk a little bit about how those two things work together in the curricula that you've developed?
That's it's an ongoing process. And for example, we had the same challenges when we were last 4 years when we worked on the Tamil National Standards with the ACTFL. It's on the Standards Committee. It went to a full review. It came back. So our ideologically, like the way the language is very sensitive to every Tamil. So since they don't want to lose the purity of it, and however the language is used over thousands of years. So that is there, that attachment to that grammar and then purity of it is there. But practically what we understood, and then based on ACTFL thing, and also there is not, I mean, it's not been kind of the easy comparison, the questions over asked that one. We always try to compare how the grammar is taught in like it's southern India state of Tamil Nadu or Sri Lanka, where the students acquire the listening speaking before they enroll into school. So they are very proficient. It's the first language for them. So they go to the school mostly for writing and reading. Reading is also less, but it's mostly writing. The writing, when it comes into that one, there's a lot more grammar is put into it for the 12 years of education. So here, we are not alleviating the whole thing about grammar, but we have actually another thing. What we have done is we did not remove everything. So with the late Dr. Radhakrishnan, he has built the essential grammar, what is required in the college programs, like in like Austin or Berkeley or UPenn or Harvard. So many schools, universities have this. So he has given a list of kind of a top level grammar, which is an essential grammar, which is required for anyone to learn. So we have actually adopted that into our syllabus. So the syllabus is there, the grammar is there in our syllabus, but however it is assessed, it is an ideological thing, which ACTFL has got completely a different thought process. Whenever we want to have a grammar thing, for example, they don't use language control in their assessments for writing. So which is something we are working with it. So we are bridging the gap between what traditionally been required and every Tamil has been aspiring for, and then also to kind of meet, however, the other world languages where for an assessment, which is not a really inherent thing. When you go to the presentation writing assessment workshops, so ACTFL did not even put language control. So they have language function, text type, and comprehensibility as a top 3 rubrics. They don't they don't even cater to language control. So we have to kind of in order for the standardized assessments for a language and other stuff. So we are balancing it. So I'm not telling you I'm fully removing it. We are balancing it in such a way that it's practically the grammar required to kind of achieve a proficiency. We are using it. So, but not a heavy-handed way how the other Indian syllabuses are. Yeah.
And what you're describing is a question that has been arising for decades related to language instruction since the advent of communicative language teaching, right? And this sort of push-pull between accuracy and fluency and grammar in the service of communication versus mastery and so on. So we could talk about that for an hour. Yep. So we are at the top of the hour and we want to be respectful of everybody's time. Thank you so much, Anu and Shiva, for sharing this work, for the work that you have done, and for being here today at CARLA. We're so grateful for your presence and for your elevation of the Tamil language. So thank you very much. And thank you to all of the folks who came to attend today. We appreciate your attention and we appreciate that you chose to participate in the CARLA professional development. So we hope to see you again as the semester goes on. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you to CARLA for the opportunity. Thank you.
Of course, we're so glad to have you back, Anu. It's really nice to see you.